Council meeting, if you will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Hewlin.
Here.
Parker.
Present.
Kling.
Here.
Schroeder.
Present.
Southall.
Here.
Marchant.
Present.
Mayor Pepper.
Here. Thank you. First item on our agenda always is open forum, public comment. If there's anybody here wishing to speak about anything not on our agenda, now is that time. There's a form in the back, please fill it out and please come forward, name and address. If not, if it's when we get to that part of the agenda, you can come speak during that point. Seeing none, hearing none, we're gonna move forward with the consent agenda.
Mayor, I need to pull item B.
Claims, we'll pull that and hold it for a minute. Anything else on consent we need to work around?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, Jackie, please.
Councilmember Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall. Aye. Marchant.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now I'll make a motion for claims. Approve B.
Second.
Okay, Jackie.
Councilmember Marchant.
Aye.
Hewlin.
Abstain.
Parker.
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. On to council reports. First one we have is an update regarding NotFest. And I think our board chair for the Blues is here. It's going to speak about that. Come on up or introduce yourself and tell us a few things about NotFest.
All right, sounds good. So my name is Jim Stockberg. I'm the board president of the National Balloon Classic, and I've been with the Classic for 11 years. And honestly, this is the first time that we've actually had a large event at the balloon field under the time I've been there. So it's pretty exciting. Exciting to have something like this because it's the largest event that I think that we've ever had out there that includes a lot of the other concerts and things that we've had. And is that correct, Rich?
That's correct.
So pretty exciting to have something like that for our community. And with that, we understand that there's going to be maybe some heartaches and things like that as far as infrastructure with our, a lot of traffic's going to be here. It's one of the things that's going to bring to town. Be patient in our community. It's kind of one of the things we wanted to say. Another thing is it's going to probably inundate some of our businesses as well. Be patient as far as if you're going to go to Brick House or if you're going to go somewhere to go eat, because we know that there's going to be a lot of people in our community at that time. But with that said, that's pretty exciting because they're expecting 30,000 people to come to Indianola on Saturday. It's a busy day in Indianola. It's log cabin days. It's homecoming. It's I think there's a volleyball tournament, home Simpson game. But 30,000 people coming to our amazing community here is pretty cool. It's something that we can say, every business is going to be busy. We've heard the comments before where the last time there was a concert in town, Hy-Vee sold out of ice. Burger King had to close because they ran out of food. So this is something that's really exciting, not only for the Classic, as this brings in revenue for us to be a rental space, but it's also exciting for the community. So bear with us in this time, but it's also an extremely exciting time to be able to welcome 30,000 people to our community. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the only United States location that their Knotfest is.
This is, yes. So they're Slipknot being from Iowa. They wanted to kind of come home and be a part of it here and have Iowa part of their concert. So it's pretty exciting. So
Can you share the hours of the event just so the public will know
yes, the event is from the first band starts at noon and Slipknot goes on I think 11 and plays until like 11:45. So it will be an all-day thing and it'll be loud, but it's going to be an extremely exciting something that we can share with our community. So,
And you're busing folks in too.
yes, and what I'll do is I'll kind of turn it over to Rich because Rich Ramos is kind of like, while I'm a part of the balloon side, Rich is kind of that side that does a lot of these things and is kind of that boots on the ground guy for Slipknot.
He's the
and
man.
concert. I can speak for the balloons and come over here and say how excited he gets for our community, but I'll turn it over to Rich here and let him speak for some of these. So
Thank you, Jim.
thank you.
As Jim said, I'm Rich Ramus. I am the site manager for the show, as well as director of operations for the show. I get hired by the promoter to kind of help them do the event and manage the event and all those sorts of things. What was the question again?
You're busing people in.
We are busing people in from Southridge Mall. We run in Southridge Mall parking. We have 35 buses running all day and into the evening, as well until 2 a.m. after the show to get people back out to Southridge Mall. So we have plenty of transportation arranged to accommodate for the limited amount of parking. The other piece is we know there's a lot of cars with parking coming into town. We're using every ounce of field space out the balloon, including north of where our event field is. So we're taking advantage of everything that's out there. We've hired the parking consultants who do Bonnaroo and Coachella and some of the largest festivals in the United States to come in and help us manage our traffic and parking and everything else. So it should help us a bit. Yes.
So just, Jackie, if you can go to the next slide, just because you were talking about it. So Chief Chia and Acting Chief Scher have been working with the promoters on just providing public safety support as we would with any event, whether it's a football game at the high school, Simpson, if it's an event at the balloon field or the county fair. So, but what's on the screen now is the route for the bus traffic. So when you look at that, it's clearly being diverted around town to help eliminate any sort of potential congestion in the center of town. The next slide, and I don't want to speak for our public safety folks, but just because the topic of traffic came up now, you can see that the vehicle route will be directed like we would for balloon traffic. So coming from the north and then going east on 92. But the bus traffic, I think, is an important component of the traffic mitigation plan for this event, and the fact that it's being routed around town and not through town.
And at the end of the day, the traffic is going to route the opposite, or the bus traffic is going to go back the opposite way. So with the traffic that's going from the show back north to Des Moines, we're taking our bus traffic back around this route through Carlisle and everything else to get them back to Southbridge Mall. So it's just trying to do everything we can to mitigate that traffic. We know it's going to be tight. We know it's going to be crazy for a little bit, but by our parking model, we're parking people in our north field, way north of the balloon field where nobody ever really sees except for people that are flying. We're parking everything there, which will hopefully get us cars off of Highway 65, 69, as well as 92 faster because we're parking those cars away first. So we're doing everything we can. We're working closely with local officials. We have a lot of those folks involved with us to help us ensure that we have the best event that we can that's safe and get people in. The realities are the bulk of our crowd is probably going to come between 10 a.m. and probably about 5 p.m. Once we hit that 5 p.m. mark, the bulk of our crowd, because the heavy hitters on the stage are hitting it about that time, that's when most people probably want to be there and be inside. But probably between 10 and 5, it's going to be a little bit busy here in town traffic-wise.
Questions for Rich?
It's certainly a fantastic event and it's a one-day inconvenience.
It is.
So great job.
It is, and you know, as Jim mentioned, we're trying to do everything we can to support the local vendors here as well. Stacy with Balloons provided us with a list of the vendors that she uses for the classic. We did everything in our power to use as many of those vendors as possible to help us with our infrastructure. Given the scope of this, it's a massive event. Our stage and to give you kind of a scope of how this is probably going to be the largest stage that's ever been built in the state of Iowa. It's 316 feet wide, so it's longer than a football field wide. It's a large structure. We have 2 cranes that are coming out tomorrow to help us with the structure. So it's a big event. If you drive by there, you're going to see all of the infrastructure that we've been bringing in. So it's a really good thing, I think, for the community. As Jim said, it is going to be a little bit of an inconvenience, but we hope that the one-day inconvenience is worth it. I think the intention of the promoters is to hopefully bring some other shows, not necessarily heavy metal all the time. Lord knows I'm not a huge fan. But I think the intention is to maybe try and do some other things that are not necessarily of this nature. So, but it is a really good thing, I think, for the community to do.
While rain would be nice for the drought, this would be a good week to be dry, wouldn't
It would be a fantastic weekend to be dry. And right now it looks really good.
Well, thanks for all you're doing. It's an incredible event to pull off.
Any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything. So
Great job.
awesome.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Team, I had met with Stacy and I had asked if they could come and give us a little update on this. I thought it was good for you and it's good for the public to know what's going to be happening. So we
Thank you,
appreciate
Mayor.
Rich and Jim for being here and giving us that update.
Can I ask, how are the businesses been notified and to prepare for the influx?
It's my understanding that the chamber folks have reached out to all the businesses so that they're aware. I know that our staff has the entire Hotel Palmier booked. We have that entire room hotel. I know that the Country Inn and Suites, I know, is booked completely for the weekend, as well as I'm sure Quality Inn. I know that the RV camping lots are all full for the weekend as well. But I know that there's been some communication sent out to all businesses from what I understand from
That's what I heard too.
I assume, but I just thought
the chamber.
yes, have
Yeah.
that noted.
So, and like I said, we're trying to use as many of the local folks. We're using TRM as our waste disposal folks. We tried to use the tent folks, but unfortunately we need a lot of tents and it's a little bit more than anybody even in Central Iowa has, unfortunately. So
Thanks.
awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next come our friends from the YMCA to give us an annual presentation. I think Mike, you're going to start and then he's just going to join us.
Good evening, and thank you for the time you've allotted us here. We'll try to be as brief as we possibly can, but we want to make sure you have your questions answered and plenty of information. Fiscal year 2021 was extremely challenging for us in many regards, but it was also very exciting and very productive from a lot of perspectives. Challenging in that we have not yet recovered our membership to the 2019 levels that we experienced. And within that data set, our family units still have not recovered also. So we're working hard to make that happen, but again, it's going to be a slow process, probably like a lot of other businesses in trying to get that recovered. Now, as you might guess, that negatively impacts our revenue sources. And just so for your information, our family membership rate is our highest price point at $92 a month. And in order to get those families back, we're going to have to show that we're giving them value for that $92. And to that end, the association over the next several months will be introducing some family-friendly programming at the Y at no additional charge. So that's a good thing. Now, there are significantly more challenges due to COVID that I won't get into, but I want to highlight some things that are pretty productive in terms of where we were in FY21. In FY21, we introduced a recruiting and election process. Those had never happened at the Y before. So if you go back a year ago, this past August, we had 15 candidates that, or 15 nominees that were potential candidates for the board. Out of that 15, 8 were selected and voted upon, and last year's board, we ended up with 26 members, which was a good number. However, just to kind of bring you some comparison data, a month ago when we had our board nomination process and our election process, we ended up with 30 nominees. We selected 12 candidates and they were voted in by the board. So right now we're running at a board of 30 people, which is the maximum number allowed by the, or recommended by the association. Now, when you take on that many new people, there's got to be a process there. So we instituted an orientation meeting for all new board members. And then we took a look at our schedule and we said, what do we need to do with that schedule of meetings? And we decided we needed to develop an orientation meeting. So we get the new people marching in the same direction that their former council people or board members have been in terms of policies and practices. Now, our FY21 annual campaign, that was a COVID issue also. Our goal was $121,000. We raised $68,923. Now, what we did at the end of that, we went back and documented every step of the process. So right now we have a 9-page, what we call our 9-page annual report on the annual campaign. And we will use that as baseline data, and moving forward, we'll take the recommendations. We had surveys from the members, we had surveys from the board, and we'll take all those recommendations into consideration as we move to FY22 for that annual campaign. With regard to our leadership team, Heather Hewlin, the executive director, Angie Jensen, the vice chair, and myself, in April of this past year, we sat down and said, we've got to look out 6 months. We can't keep going any shorter time frame than that. So we developed a 6-month planning schedule. And when we did that, we went through and we identified everything we needed to get done in the next 6 months. And we're coming up on that 6-month anniversary in October. So what we do now, each month, we sit down and we look and we say, what did we say we're going to do? How do we get it done? And then what do we need to do in terms of modifications and growth for the next couple of months out? Now, in October of this year, we will sit down and do that 6-month planning cycle. Now, in terms of where we need to be, from my perspective, we need to be at about a 9 and a 12-month planning cycle with regard to budgeting, programming, and marketing. I don't know if you realize this, but we are 9 months away from our summer programs. We need to know what they're going to cost, what we're going to do, and how we're going to market to our local community. Because if we don't start marketing to our local community folks, we're not going to get those families back. We got to sell that product. Okay. We have that monthly planning meeting, and that's been good. We also, in FY21, we revamped our committee structure. We said there's got to be some accountability there. And this is probably the most problematic area, because getting together with committees in a COVID environment didn't work very well. So we've taken what we have learned from FY21, we'll apply it to FY22. We've developed a new plan for having those people report to the board in terms of a meeting report. The leadership team now will be reporting to the board. on a meeting by meeting basis. And I sat on the board, the Metro board, and I will be doing that same type of report. And then what we're going to do is move a lot of those things into our consent agenda. We're going to model this organization and model the association, get that consent agenda going so we can flow through those meetings. We try to wrap those up in an hour, and many times we don't get that done, but we're getting closer and closer every meeting. So with regard to our Y members, if you know a Y member, just pat them on the back because they are excellent, excellent people. A year ago, August, we had, a year ago, August, we had 33 members come out, and they just helped us clean the exterior of that building. Now, they donated 80 hours of community service back to the Y. This year, we had 31 people show up. We got 60.25 hours out of them, and that's coming back to the Y. No charge, no nothing. They just were there. Matter of fact, we had a good time with that. We have member forums. I don't know. I know you have community forums with this organization sometimes, but we found those just a wonderful public relations tool. What we say to members, here's the date and the time and the place, show up. And then what we do, we put on the whiteboard, we say no. We put on the middle of the whiteboard, do, and then we put on the exterior, we say be like. And then the leadership team and I just sit there and we listen, and they tell us what do we need to know, what do we need to do, what do we need to be like. We collect that data, shove that back out to the leadership team when they're not there, and then we shove that back out to any committees that need to have that addressed, those topics addressed. So did 3 last year. We're going to move that up to 4. We think we can do 1 a quarter without having any problems. Last thing, community support. Well, not the last thing. Community support, folks. We heard last year that the Y needed some personal care products. We turned that over to our members. We collected 654 personal care units. We got the high school basketball team via Will Naylor to come out and box those up and haul them out to the high school. And I assume the high school distributed those. This spring, we got involved with what was happening in the community. You'll remember some churches and other organizations found out there was a need for school supplies, and we ran that through Helping Hand, and the Y members contributed to 313 units there. So we've got an engaged community out there, and they work very hard. One of the things I'd like to close with was a couple weeks ago now, we did a 9/11 remembrance, and that was just an extremely successful day, ladies and gentlemen. The weather was perfect. We had some opening ceremonies at 8:30. I think we had Boy Scout Troop 123 did the flag presentation. We had a bugler from the high school that played taps at the appropriate time. Everybody paused for a moment of silence at that time. The kid games and the family games were rocking and rolling. And just so you know, Diane Thomas created a fire fit class. We had 8 participants on that. And those 8 participants did a modified physical agility test that day to test their fire fitness. And believe it or not, our city manager went through that very same fitness test. He did very well. I don't know exactly how he felt on Sunday morning, but on Saturday when he left, he had a smile on his face, and so did his kids and the wife, by the way. So we appreciate the city, especially Ted Neller and Bob Sukup, because they had the brand new fire truck out there. They linked up with the Hartford Fire Department. Kids were spraying big old water hoses. People were watching the fire fit people go through there. And that's all thanks to Diane Thomas and the Y staff out there that helped us out. Celie was out there helping us with games and all that sort of stuff. So we've had a tough year, but ladies and gentlemen, we're making progress. So I'll turn the rest over to CEO Alicia Farkas from the Greater Des Moines YMCA, and she'll share with you a little bit from her perspective.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Any chance we have the video?
No, but there's a photo before I collapse.
All right, well, I'll mention that video in just a second. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about me passing the test.
No.
Oh, sure, maybe not you.
No, we don't.
Okay.
We can pass it out.
Okay, good. That's just fine. So thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be back this year as my September report to your community. It's been quite a year for all of us, but I'm so thrilled to be standing here in such a positive light. So tonight I would just want to do three things. I want to speak just briefly upon the community impacts that the YMCA is having in your community. I want to give some general comments on the end of the year revenues and losses, and then just a brief review. So that's for the Indianola Y, and then I'll give you a brief review on the YMCA of Greater Des Moines revenues and losses, and share some exciting information about our efforts this year toward future financial sustainability. So just a word about our community partnership with you. I just want to commend Mike Bathke for his tremendous work as the leader here in Indianola for your community YMCA. Mike is not only a tremendous leader here and help to Heather, but has also been an active and very vocal member of the YMCA Board of Directors. And I appreciate that so much. He's incredibly involved with us. He continues to help us navigate these challenging times. And I'm grateful for his attention and his leadership. So thank you. Thank you, Mike. And I just wanted to also say, I came down for the 9/11 Remembrance ceremony. I did leave before the city manager did his fitness test, unfortunately. But I just want to say that was, for me, just the perfect example of an incredible community partnership and collaboration, and the things that the YMCA should be providing your community. So congratulations to Diane and Heather and all the volunteers involved. I found it just incredibly moving that morning, and really was just fantastic. So thank you. Your YMCA continues to be both an economic development tool for your community as well as an economic engine. Your YMCA fills the gap in your community by serving as a safe location for all of your residents, regardless of their age or their economic status. It's a place for them to find health and wellness opportunities, as well as local training such as lifeguard training, CPR, or safety around water. Your collaboration with our summer program youth from the Grub YMCA and the urban core of Des Moines is notable and greatly appreciated. And your Rotary got involved and participated in that by providing some snacks to those kids who came down to Indianola to learn how to swim. So it's just incredible. And then Mike mentioning your high school engagement with the Y as well is just another example of the type of partnerships and collaborations that we hope for. It's a place for families to strengthen their bond with space to play and engage in shared interests together. And I feel very positive about the enhanced family membership programs that we'll be providing this year, and look to be inviting numerous families back to the Y. The true sense of belonging and hope, and the reduction in social isolation that occurs with the YMCA here in your community should never be forgotten, and what it does for the seniors. And just that you're a willing partner, we are a willing partner to other community organizations, schools, and nonprofits. We want to be there to help. So just some general comments then on the end of the year review of revenues and losses. So as I always remind people whenever I give a presentation, the YMCA currently operates on revenue generated in 3 different ways, and that's through our memberships, through our programs, and through contributed income, which includes grants and then the community annual campaign. In terms of membership units, as Mike mentioned, we are not back to where we were pre-COVID. We're not right now at 75% of the membership that we had pre-COVID. But actually, I'm very pleased with that. I think that it's going very well, and people are returning to the Y. We budgeted when we budgeted for those membership units. This Indianola YMCA has attained 96% of that budgeted revenue. So we knew that it wouldn't come back as quickly as we'd all like, and we have budgeted for that realization. So compared to budget, Indianola is just down by over $26,000 in revenue, which I'm very pleased with and very happy about the job that Heather and her team are doing, and the response from the community. The programs, I'm happy to hear Mike say that they're right on top of programs for next summer, because that is a really important for the community, not only to offer those programs to children, to youth, and to families, but also it's a revenue generator. And this year, the Indianola Y was positive to budget by over $9,000 in programs. So again, congratulations. We fell quite short for contributed income this year. The annual campaign fundraising was at 71% of our last year, which was fiscal year 20. So I'm really encouraged by the number of new board members that have been attracted to the Y and who want to participate. In fact, at the association level, I've attracted 7 new board members to our association board as well, our at-large members. And they're engaged, they're excited, and they're ready to go. So we hope to see some increases in the contributed income category. So this year's budgeted losses in Indianola are actually they're $51,000 better than what we budgeted. So that's the positive part of this. What's still challenging, however, is that we're still losing a considerable amount of money with the YMCA here in Indianola. And I look forward to, turning my attention to more of that in this coming year. Because we've been quite busy at the association level as well. Our overall revenue at the Greater Des Moines YMCA Association is 74% of where we were at COVID. So you're doing 1% better or right in line with where we are as an association. Unfortunately, we've gone from a $19 million organization pre-COVID to a $14 million organization this year. And I do know that that's not out of line with YMCAs around the country. So we're all struggling and working to get back to pre-COVID. But with good management practices in place, safe practices, I'm very proud of our association during COVID and access to all available federal funding. We've went after all of those available federal funding opportunities. We do find ourselves in a positive cash flow position to focus on rebuilding now for fiscal year 22. So that is excellent. We budgeted conservatively in fiscal year 21, and we met 97% of our budgeted membership revenue. So I just tell you that because I want you to feel confident about the way that we are managing the association. Our programs are positive to budget at the association level by just under $200,000, which is great. And our annual campaign fundraising exceeded our budget by $776,000 this year. In terms of financial sustainability, I couldn't be more thrilled to stand here and tell you through various sales and leaseback transactions and just a lot of work over the last year. So the sale and leaseback of some of our facilities, including Y Camp and Waukee, we've already reduced that long-term debt by $11 million. So we are really setting ourselves up for success, and there'll be more transactions to come. And so I just want you to know that when I say sale leaseback, when we sold Waukee just a week ago, we are remaining in that facility and we're leasing that from the new owner. So we're not closing any facilities. And that's the same thing with Y Camp. That was purchased by a group of just incredible generational donors who've been in Y Camp's been around for 100 years. And there's multiple families who have that history with Y Camp, and they all came together. Started a not-for-profit foundation, bought the Y Camp, and then we entered into a 10-year operating lease with Y Camp. So again, to the public, we hope that you see there'll be no differences in those facilities. But my goal is by the end of this calendar year, we turn our energy and our entire community conversation from debt reduction to growth for long-term financial sustainability, and then increased mission impact throughout Greater Des Moines. And I have every confidence that that's going to happen. And so you'll hear me shouting from the mountaintop before the end of the year about that success. So again, I just wanted to mention that we welcome 7 new at-large board members to the WISE Governing Board this year, and we're in the process of completing a new strategic plan. Specifically for Indianola, I have requested that the district executive director work with Heather, the city and the county and others on a community assessment. I want to understand what gaps this community has in its health and well-being and its youth development work, and where can the Y possibly impact the social service needs of Indianola. So with that said, and just a conclusion, I just look forward to a really positive year ahead and continue to be accessible to you at any time throughout the coming months. So happy to answer any questions. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, on to our treasurer's report. Here comes Doug Scholl.
I will say this, that Mike has a lot of skills. He's
I've
pretty,
worked with him on a board before.
he's really
very
talented.
thorough.
And I noticed you used some outcome-based education. I knew.
We're fortunate in this community. We have a lot of people like Mike. They never did mention if Ryan passed.
Did that.
I did.
They were worried about, yeah, but that's coming from you.
He suits up tomorrow.
It was sub 5 minutes for somebody that, I didn't take the class. They just
You just
prompted me to do the test. So,
I'm proud of you.
thank you, sir.
It's called Cliff
Mayor, Council, the report that's in front of you is for the month of August, which is the second month of the 21-22 year. And as I've kind of reported the last 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, whatever, financially, the city is very strong. I mean, comparing it to a year ago, it's just kind of fantastic how much the fund balances, which is something I really pay attention to, have grown. And overall, we've got some like almost 36 million. A year ago, we had 26 million. Now, a lot of that is funding that you've done for, let's see, I think for the, what's ARPA fund?
That's the American Rescue Plan. So that's the 2.3 million that we'll be getting from the federal government for, AP is going to talk about that in study session for West Boston.
Because we got almost 1.2 million during August, which is, anyway, and then I think you got obviously the sewer projects going on, and yeah, so anyway, the same old things. One of the things that I'm somewhat surprised at is the police fund balances grew $600,000. We're not defunding them, are we? No.
Take that back.
Don't even utter those words.
I get it. I take them back. Local option sales tax is still, apparently it looks to be strong. And again, I said we had some 36 million to account for. And the interest rates are very, very, very similar to a year ago. And that makes sense. So that would be my report for the month of August. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. On to mayor's report, a couple things, with a couple proclamations, but I'll start with just community update. Just a little touch base, the Mayor's Youth Council toured the police department. She shared a great job, got them exposed, answered their questions. You know, they come at 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning, so they're bright and cheery, wide awake. But they are a great group of kids. They are now recruiting their first year freshman students to join them. So I was along with the ride with them. I'll be a part of that interview process. I really do enjoy working with them, and Becky Lane does a great job with their programming. They tried to do something on at the high school on the first of the month, and then their third week of the month, they are usually out and about in the community trying to see what's going on. And so we're appreciative of all of our community businesses that have invited them in, our departments. So, and our department chairs, I know, have also gone and talked with them. So we greatly appreciate that. It's a great group of kids. Always making a push for volunteers. We need volunteers on our boards and our commissions. So if you're interested, please take a look at our website. If you're not sure, you can always call City Hall. They can point you in the right direction. There's a short application, fill it out, but we're always looking for good people. A couple other little things, East Valley Place Drive. It's halfway done, as I understand it. The other half's gonna get done, which is very exciting. That was one of, I think, personally, I've traveled that road, a rough road, but we are very excited about that. And thanks to the citizens and the businesses for their patience during this. Not an easy one to fix because it's just the way it's laid out, but it's coming together very nice. So excited about that. And of course, streetscape, if you haven't been down to the square, go look. There's some cement down there now where there used to not be. So very excited to see that happening. Phase 1 is moving through the process and should be on time. So we're excited about that. And then our friends at Helping Hand just sent me a message, always just a little push out for them. Please get involved, take a look at what they have going on. They're always looking for help. They're always looking for donations. They're always looking for partnerships. So if you are looking to do something good for this community, take a look at Helping Hand. That's what I have for community update. Now I want to move on to some proclamations. We have 2 of them. First one is International Day of Peace. Whereas in 1981, the United Nations established the International Day of Peace as a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace and to contribute to building a culture of peace. And whereas the theme for 2021 is recovering better for an equitable and sustainable world. And whereas the pandemic has affected all of humanity and we must all recover together while building a more just world. And whereas the United Nations encourages everyone to stand up against acts of hate and spread compassion, kindness, and hope during the pandemic and recovery while remembering we are not each other's enemy. And whereas a day of peace allows us to come together, focus on what all nations and peoples can do to create a more peaceful, equitable, and unified world. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pepper, do hereby proclaim September 21st, 2021 as a day of peace throughout the city of Indianola, and I encourage all citizens to commit to strengthening the ideals of peace within our city. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Indianola, Iowa, this 20th day of September 2021. Yes, I think we need a little more peace in our world. The other proclamation, of course, is celebrating some of our city departments and our IMU department. It's Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week. Whereas water is one of our most valuable economic, environmental, and recreational resources. And whereas a clean and abundant supply of safe drinking water helps to sustain life, attracts development, and provides for the health, welfare, and safety of our community in many ways. And whereas wastewater treatment facilities contribute to healthy communities, protect public health through safe transport and sanitation, and improve water quality for streams, rivers, and lakes. And whereas water and wastewater treatment workers focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance and to sustainable, resilient, safe, and enjoyable communities. And whereas Indianola is blessed, yes, to have such dedicated professionals at the city and IMU working around the clock to protect our community, the environment, and our natural resources. And whereas Kim Reynolds, Governor of the state of Iowa, recently proclaimed September 19 through 25, 2021 as Water and Wastewater Workers Week of Iowa. Now, therefore, I, Pam Pepper, Mayor of the City of Indianola, join Governor Reynolds in proclaiming the week of September 19 through 25, 2021 as Water and Wastewater Workers of Iowa Week, and encourage all citizens to join me in recognizing the great work of our dedicated professionals here in Indianola. Proclaimed on this 20th day of September 2021. Yes, a shout out to both of them. Lori Smith is here tonight representing IMU Sport, so thank you. Please share that with them as well. We appreciate all the work of our water and wastewater workers. They're a great group of people. All right, on to public consideration and our old business. First item, first consideration of an ordinance amending the city code of the city of Indianola, Iowa, amending regulations for all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles and creating regulations for golf carts. Charlie's here.
Good evening, Mayor, members, Council. Charlie DeSell, Community and Economic Development Director. As Council and the Mayor will recall, back on June 7th, you directed staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission to take a look at the possibility of adding golf cart regulations within the city. And as part of that, also to look at what our regulations are on ATVs and UTVs. So we got a kind of chart up here on the screen that'll really explain this a little bit better. But if you see, we've got it broken down in the types of vehicles. Our utility vehicles are allowed. We also added snowmobiles to this because as we did some research, we realized that the ATVs and the snowmobiles are currently within city regulations and they're in one chapter together, chapter 75. So you can see here, there's some Iowa code sections that enable this stuff. Again, now currently allowed in the city for ATVs and UTVs. It does say no up there. We want to note that the reason that is because currently we do have regulations adopted for ATVs and UTVs, how they're operated, stuff like that. There's a section in our code that says by resolution, the city council shall adopt routes that they're allowed on. We, staff, could not find any record that that was ever done. So currently right now, we don't have any routes that are in there, but we do have regulations on the book that control ATVs and UTVs. Snowmobiles, we do actually have a section in our code that does outline these streets that snowmobiles are allowed on. And golf carts, obviously, that was something that we were directed to do, so we don't currently have that. The next one, can we limit the streets where they are allowed? That is a yes on everything, with the note on snowmobiles that there is a section of state code that does say when it snows during the snow season, essentially, you have to allow for snowmobiles on roads if they are not plowed. So in that portion where the roads may not be plowed, we do have to allow for snowmobile operation within the city. Other than that, we can limit where they go. Can we adopt local ordinances? First of all, I'm going to touch on golf carts. Yes, we can. The only thing we can't do there is we can't be any less strict than what state code says. State code does say that you have to, if you do have a golf cart within the city, you have to have a slow moving vehicle sign, a bike safety flag, and they can only be allowed from sunset or sunrise to sunset. Other than that, we did note on ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles, technically we cannot be any more strict than what state code says. There's a process that the council, the city would have to go through if we wanted to be more strict. Essentially, we have to go in front of the commission of the DNR commission, the Department of Natural Resource Commission, to get special approval to vary from the regulations that are within state code. However, we did note if there's any specific concerns that council or safety concerns that council may have, we'd love to hear about them. We can take that, then work with legal counsel to see if there is any way we can do that, because there are some things when we've talked to legal that as long as we are not making it any less strict than what state code says, there are some things we can do. And there's one example of a thing that we've included in the ordinance here, and I'll go over that in a second. And then lastly, I know we've talked about registration a little bit, but we did want to note that by law, ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles are required to be registered through the state of Iowa. Golf carts are not required to be registered. So with that, the ordinance that is in front of you, first of all, chapter 75, again, that is the current chapter that is within our code. We're not making any substantive changes to that. What we are doing is there was a section in chapter 71 that clarified snowmobile routes. We're going to move that to chapter 75 because, quite honestly, it just makes more sense there. We're not changing any of those routes. We did update a few street names. For example, one of the street names that was in the ordinance was Waterworks Road, which we presume to be South K Street. So we just clarified that that was something. So again, clarified that. We do, or the Planning and Zoning Commission did review this, and one of the recommendations they made was to also match the sunrise to sunset language within ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles. So we've added that in as well. And again, that's going back to working with legal. They did say, since we're not being any more or less strict than what the state requires, we are allowed to do that. And then again, we did want to note, again, Planning and Zoning Commission did review it. There was a few recommendations that the Planning and Zoning Commission had. For example, there was one regulation. They said, let's make sure that everybody is 16 years old if they're operating an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile. As we worked with legal, we found the state code's actually pretty upfront about the ages on that. And I don't remember exactly what they are, but I think it's 16 for ATVs, UTVs, and I think it's like 12 for snowmobiles that you can operate. We cannot vary from that without going to that DNR commission. So we have to follow what state code says there. And then looking at new chapter 77, allowing for golf carts. Again, we are just adopting the language that is in that state code section. I did note that we can be a little bit more strict than what we had, and there's some regulations on the screen here that we've included. For example, you have to drive as close to the right edge as possible. If two golf carts are going in the same direction, they have to be in single file. They can't be side by side, and things like that. And again, that was in the draft ordinance that was included in your packet. So if there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them. But again, that just kind of sums up the research that we've done on this. And if there's any questions on it, be happy to answer them.
So, oh, excuse me. Yeah. So a lot of these things, we already almost have this. Anyway.
Yes, for ATVs, UTVs,
Yeah.
snowmobiles, yes.
So for the golf carts, is then the recommendation would be to use the same streets as what is already set aside?
Yeah, so, and I probably should clarify that, and I apologize. So the language that we put in, both for ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles, and on roads that are 35 miles an hour or less. So if the speed limit's over 35, they would
Right.
not be allowed on those roads. The state also does mandate through these regulations that they cannot be allowed on primary roads that go through the city, which would
Right.
include 65, 69, and Highway 92.
Other than to cross.
Yes, they can cross.
Charlie, it's very helpful. Good overview. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
In-depth information.
I've had a number of people contact me about this, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yes. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. On to 110 North First Street. We need to have a public hearing on an application for an exemption of sign code at 110 North First Street, Indianola.
Make a motion to go into public hearing?
Second.
Okay. Jackie?
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall.
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now in a public hearing. We'll start with just Charlie giving an overview. please.
Yep, really quick. So 110 North First Street is City Hall. And as council is aware, there was money budgeted this year to replace the electronic message sign that is located outside the City Hall. So with that, this is just kind of a concept here of what it's going to look like. Reason the exemption is being requested is because the code requires that all signs along highway frontage are set back 20 feet. This one's actually located right on the property line. It is existing. It's going to be in the same exact place it is today. And also requires that electronic message boards not be larger than 3 square feet. I'm still convinced that that's probably a typo, but still going to be bigger than that. And that is what's on the book. So any questions on that? Be happy to answer it.
They look good.
Looks good.
Yes. Needed. I like it.
Yes.
Thank you, Charlie. Anybody else here wishing to speak about this? If so, please come forward. Hearing none. Motion to go out.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, Jackie?
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Looking for a resolution approving an application for an exemption of sign code at 110 North First Street, Indianola.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution approving a revised preliminary plat for Fox Run Plat 2. To approve.
Second.
Jackie. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Nope, sorry. Go ahead.
You can go. Yeah, it's fine. I'll sit back down.
Charlie, please.
Council really call on June 21st. We reviewed a preliminary plat for Fox Run Plat 2. Since that time, the developers crunched some numbers, looked at this, and has now revised the plat. Some of the changes that are included on this, if you can see the chart here, shows the first preliminary plat included 47 total units. This one is including 23 total. The density on the first one was 4.5 units per acre. New one about 2.2 units per acre. You'll see an increase in outlot, and council will recall that outlot is actually going to be dedicated to the city for future park grounds. So I want to make sure that that's known. But again, the previous one was a 4.2 acre outlot. This one about a 6.4 acre outlet. So we're actually going to be getting more park ground with this one. The first preliminary plat did require the relocation of some existing sanitary sewer lines that were in the ground. The revised one does not require any relocation. And then the first plat also included a private road that would be used for those townhome units that were in there. This one does not require any private roads, which is a good thing. So any questions on the revised preliminary plat? I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Charlie?
No question, but I think it was a great idea
Yeah.
to make the move that they've done.
Yeah. So will the stormwater retention be pretty much the same, even though
Yep.
it's a bigger area? Or?
Yep, and there's another, if you look at the plat that's included in the packet, it shows it, it's kind of back in this area, and when you see the elevations on it, you can really see it. So, yeah, it's, I believe the same exact size as the one that was previous, so.
So we're gonna need more park space.
Yep.
Questions? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Hillcrest Downtown Unified Urban Renewal Plan.
I just said,
I know, we just have Shirley come back and forth. First one, public hearing on proposed amendment number 5 to the Hillcrest Downtown Unified Urban Renewal Plan for the urban renewal area in the city of Indianola.
Move to go into public hearing.
second.
Jackie, please.
Councilmember Southall. Aye. Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Carries. We are now in a public hearing. Charlie.
Yes, really quick. So this is kind of step 2 from the process that took place with Amendment 4, where the D. Yarman Ford property was taken out of the urban renewal plan. Amendment number 5 is placing that ground back in. Additionally, there is some more ground on behind the current D. Yarman Ford that D. Yarman Ford purchased a few months ago. We are also now including that into the urban renewal area, as well as a strip of ground with the future Willowcrest corridor that's also included on that. And that's just allows the city the ability to use TIF funds when it does become time to put that road in. So you can see in the blue area here, Jefferson Way, 6569 is over here. The current D. Yarman Ford dealership is right here. The ground that they purchased back here, and then that small strip of ground going all the way to the Somerset Trail for the future Willowcrest corridor. So any questions with this? Be happy to answer them.
Sure. Anybody else wishing to speak during this public hearing on this topic? Okay, not seeing any, I'll take a motion to go out.
Move to go out of closed session.
Second.
Closed session, public hearing, sorry.
I know it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jackie, please.
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, on to resolution determining an area of the city to be an economic development area and at the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development, or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting amendment number 5 to the Hillcrest Downtown Unified Urban Renewal Plan.
I so move.
Second.
Questions, comments? Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall. Aye. Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then first consideration of an ordinance, amending ordinance numbers 1026, 1137, 1218, 1322, 1336, 1428, 1217, 1314, 1396, 1549, 1613, 1616, and 1668. Providing that
Well
general, providing that general property taxes levied and collected each year on a portion of the property located within the amended Hillcrest Downtown Unified Urban Renewal Area in the city of Indianola, county of Warren, state of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the state of Iowa, city of Indianola, county of Warren, Indianola Community School District, and other taxing districts to be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to and indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with the amended Hillcrest Downtown Unified Urban Renewal Area.
So moved.
Second.
Could you read that?
Exactly. That's a long one. Questions, comments? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall.
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. On to new business for the evening. We have a resolution authorizing the submission of nominations to the Small Town America Civic Volunteer Award Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jackie, did you want to tell us a few things about this? please?
Civic Plus is the company that does our websites that you guys are using now with the Civic Clerk Board portal. They're sponsoring this award. The award is intended to support the retention and recruitment of local volunteers. They pick 100 winners, and the top 3 get prizes ranging from $5,000 to $20,000. The government officials must approve the submission of the nominations before we're able to move forward with that. And staff has recommended the nomination of the streetscape and comprehensive plan committees because they've had award-winning plans that focus on economic development and improving the community.
I do want to say, Jackie, I'm really learning this new program.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit.
It does.
Good. Questions on this? That's great.
It's wonderful. Yeah, that's great.
So, thank you for that.
Good choices.
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall. Aye. Marchant.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Next item is resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 vehicles for the Water Resource Recovery Department. To approve.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Rick Graves, Water Source Recovery Director.
What?
Staff, look,
Okay, go ahead, Rick. We got the motion. Hi, Rick.
sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rick Graves, Water Resource Recovery Director. Staff looked at a couple options in replacing the International tractor. Decided on the Bobcats UV34 and L23. The UV34 is a UTV and will be used mainly at the new wastewater plant and will be utilized in carrying our camera equipment into backyards or along the sanitary sewer trunk lines that are located in the woods where a camera van cannot access. And the L23 is a small articulated loader that will come with 4 attachments, with the main one, a snow blower for clearing over 2,700 feet of sidewalk at the new wastewater plant. Purchase is part of the FY22 CIP budget and purchased using the Sourcewell contract the city is a member of. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Rick, we appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
He gets excited out there in that new territory.
It's fun to try.
Yeah.
Questions for Rick?
And after having walked that whole area,
Yeah.
they definitely need.
Yeah, I
did,
agree.
yeah.
All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is a resolution waiving the applicable provisions of the city's purchasing policy to allow for another biosolids removal and disposal vendor to be secured in a timely manner.
So moved.
Okay, Rick?
Okay, yeah, I received a letter last week from Jared Burma. He's the president of the Customized Environmental Solutions, who was our sludge hauler contractor, stating they were closing and terminating our contract due to the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sludge hauling is scheduled to start once the crops are out of the city farm field in the next couple of weeks. So I'm looking for council approval to temporarily suspend the city's purchasing policy to allow for another vendor to be secured. I've contacted 3 vendors and waiting for quotes from them. Are there any questions?
Sounds like it was kind of a last minute change here.
Yeah, just the last thing, just to add on to what Rick's saying is this is just a council policy. As you can see in what on the screen and what Rick said, we're still going to go out and secure quotes. It's just not because of this type of business and how much it is part of the budget process. It would require the sealed responses. So that's what's really driving the request for waiving this. So we've checked it with legal. We're certainly okay to do that. And again, Rick's reaching out to potential vendors. So we're still making sure we're getting a competitive quote.
Excellent.
That's a great way to do it.
And will this be the last time it has to be hauled, Rick?
I'll probably have to do it one more time once we get started up the new plant, just to clean everything out is all.
Makes sense, yeah.
Other questions? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall. Aye. Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. On to other business. City managers report. Ryan Waller.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple things that are not listed here. First of all, condolences to one of our employees, Kevin Crawford. His son passed away recently. And so when we were talking about wastewater leak, wanted to just make sure we extend our condolences to him and his family.
From all of us.
Staff was contacted late last week from IDOT. IDOT has some interest in doing a speed study on 65, 69 north from Circle B. We've talked about it as a staff. We do feel that that would be something that's warranted, but the regulations stipulate that any sort of request would have to come from the city. So before we submitted a formal request, we just wanted to check in with the council and see if there's any hesitation on that. It's just a speed study looking at the rates. Is it appropriately marked? Looking at different crash data in that section.
So they want the study, but then their regulations are, we have to ask.
Yeah, and a lot of it has been driven by some of the accidents that
Right.
have been out there lately.
Right.
So it was the gentleman that called. He said, Ryan, he said, you said if you ever have questions, give you a call. So he's like, I'm taking you up on that. And so we did check with PD and with fire and with community development, public works, and it's something that we think is warranted.
Yeah.
It's good information to have, yeah.
Especially there's a, right now, there what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
There's been more than one. Yeah.
And I'm on there a lot, it seems to me like it's just a lot of, I don't know that it's speed so much as other things, but yeah, anyway. So,
A lot of distractions,
yeah, I think there's that.
Yeah.
a lot of cars to look at right now.
So we
A lot of things in
will-
their hands, but, yeah.
So we will get that request in, appreciate that. And then beyond that, it's just receive and file the correspondence. Yes, sir.
We got an email the other day, and I guess I'm a little bit trying to figure out. So we received an email about that IMU went through, they're doing a what's it, the water. What's that? It's about the water fund or whatever, they're working with impact.
Oh,
And I
there's,
guess I'm a little troubled why we weren't involved in that, and it was just kind of this something, hey, maybe you want to think about it, but we've already done it. I guess I'm not sure, understanding why they didn't talk to the staff about that, or
don't know. Andy has reached out to the program. Chris had shared that presentation. So Andy's reached out to the program administrator to inquire about it and see if it's something that would pertain to us on the wastewater side. At this point, and Andy's still waiting to call. Andy, are you on? Andy's on. I don't know if he's heard back yet.
I am.
There you go.
Okay, Mayor and Council, what I heard from the program administrator was they only needed to have one agreement with the with IMU, since the IMU handles the billing for the city. Mainly how this program works, the customer goes to this program to ask for assistance, and then the program pays IMU for the billing. And so there's no agreement that needs to be done with the city unless I hear otherwise from that program.
all right.
But we can continue to strongly encourage IMU to keep us.
Yeah, keep us in the loop. Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have had that information rather than that. So as soon as they were done talking about it, then, you know, and like I said, I just felt like their staff didn't do a very good job of updating our staff, so.
Make a motion then to receive and file the correspondence from September 3 and 10, 2021, weekly updates from the city manager, Ryan Waller.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next item is to adjourn, but just before we do that, just a reminder, we'll take a cute 5-minute break and then we will go immediately into our council study meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Stick around, it's gonna be
We
exciting.
stay adjourned until we come back in 5
Hey, it
minutes
is.
for council study. Thank
I love
you.
talking about this.
Works Department and capital projects. The second part will be done by Dave Moeller on the preservation approach for pavements and a list of priority projects for the asphalt overlay candidates. So the Public Works Department is dedicated to maintain and improve the quality of life in Indianola. The capital projects that we have, the projects that we are doing is basically we are responsible for about 66 centerline miles of roadways. We are also responsible for the stormwater infrastructure, traffic signals, signs, pavement markings, winter maintenance and snow removal activities, street sweeper operations, brush facility operations, and overseeing the capital projects that we have in town, such as the Valley Place Square example. So this chart gives you a synopsis or a summary of what we have in terms of roadway. We have about 66 centerline miles of roadways, and our average pavement condition index is about 70. And this summarizes the stormwater infrastructure that we have for Indianola. The current organization chart shows that we have about 7 full-time employees, including myself for the Public Works Department. We also include 1 part-time street sweeper operator, 2 seasonal brush facility operators, and 3 summertime help for the street division. We have a current need for the staffing requirements for the street division. We have previously shown the need for 2 additional staff members for the street department. We are, as the city is growing, we have a need for staffing requirements for this. When compared to other cities, we are understaffed. We constantly require or request help from other departments, especially during snow removal operations, where even our 8 snow routes that we have, we don't have the staffing to do with our 6 full-time employees with the street division. So there's a need for that department to have additional staffing. We are also working towards basically reorganizing the streets and the parks with the Public Works Department, just because the facility is located next to each other and we have work that's similarly related to each other.
I can just add in really quick. So the additional staffing, you recall, we've talked about this in the past, especially as we looked at the census data. So that's the increase in the road use tax because of the increase in the population is what we would be using to fund that position. So the entire street department, the staffing and all the equipment, that's funded by the road use tax that we get, which is based off per capita. And then the reorg to take the park staff and put it under Public Works, as AP said, similar type of duties, but it's also efficiencies when you look at, Doug's managing 2 sites right now. Everybody's camped out at the street yard. And then especially as AP mentioned in one of his opening slides, when we look at snow removal, snow operations, the park staff are a big part of the snow removal operations. So it makes an operational sense to have them under the umbrella of Public Works instead of having them report to somebody else that's really in charge of the pool and a lot of the recreational stuff. This will allow AP to better deploy those resources when we're looking at, trail repair or snow plowing or other types of repair where we're going to need a laborer or somebody else with the skills that our park staff have, especially with us being understaffed.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yes.
Can you go back one slide real quick? Because I think you kind of ran through it real quick, but you talked about the PCI, and I think people just need to understand that most of our streets are good or better. It's just the problem is the ones that we do have that are poor are really bad.
True.
And that's the issue
True.
that we have, and that hopefully will be taken care of over the next so many years, but which also then in turn needs, we have more staff needs to take care of that. I just, like I said, I wanted to make sure that got noted to the public that while we do have really good streets in town, but the bad ones are really bad. So
We'll have some more slides to explain that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the time where you and I visited about the comparison to other communities, the number of miles of street that we have to maintain with our staff versus sister community or peer communities, I guess I should say. I mean, maybe you don't want to.
I don't recall if AP has it in this presentation. We can certainly talk about the comparison of the condition of the roads. We have that. Do you have the?
Yeah, I do.
But that doesn't.
You get to it. I mean, I just want to make sure that anybody listening is aware, because I was shocked.
Yeah, and this is meant to just give an update, and we'll make sure as part of the budget process, when we talk about the staffing requirements and have that budgetary request, that we'll make sure we have that data to show
We
the,
need staff, I know.
yeah.
But I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
that they
and
line.
I don't want to steal AP's thunder here, but one of the slides that I'll talk about is the amount of time our staff spent reconstructing a section of road because it was just so bad. And every time they went to another panel, it's like it was worse, and it just kept. There was no logical stop, but that was quite a bit of man hours working on that street. When if we had additional staff, we'd be able to start doing some of these other regular maintenance, which is what AP is going to be talking about here next on this with his those activities.
So our ongoing activities on an annual basis basically categorize alphabetically here, which varies from anywhere from brush facility operations to street repairs, pothole repairs, snow removals. We have scheduled activities, we have complaint-driven activities and prioritized activities for that, either it's scheduled or complaint-driven activities. For instance, pothole repairs, we have a prioritized activity during March and April when the potholes tend to show up after the freeze-thaw cycles we have with the weather we got here. So we have a list of activities that we are busy most of the year doing these activities. So some of the activities and accomplishments by the street divisions during the last 2 calendar years are listed out in this table with a variety of work that we have done. Some of the things I want to highlight here is some of the pavement repairs that we have done in calendar year 2020 and 2021. The 2021 is not yet done. We are still working towards that. We have repaired more than 1,400 linear foot of pavement and more than 2,000 feet in 2021, which is a lot of repair work. And also we have replaced about 12 sidewalk ramps in the last 2 years. Pothole repairs, you can see we have a lot of potholes. We try to get to that. We have used about 140,000 plus pounds of cold mix asphalt towards the pothole repairs.
So do we have a way for people if they, because first of all, hopefully people understand that we don't monitor every inch of every street all the time. So we do need, as you mentioned, most of it's complaint driven. We do need people to let us know if something is happening. How does that happen?
So currently we take complaints via phone call, and also we have a website dedicated for this where we are taking complaints on our potholes, not just potholes. Everything depends on whether it's street repairs. We get complaints through that server,
Okay.
and then we delegate our street staff to that.
So they need to do more than just sit on Facebook and complain about it. They need to let us know. Yeah, correct. Okay, because I feel like a lot of times that there are people out there that just need to be a little bit more interactive and let us know rather than just complaining about it. Because I don't think we have terrible streets. We just, we need to know about it. It's normal. We're in Iowa. We have heating and cold. So, but anyway.
And we do advertise a lot on social media.
Good.
We have the iMagazine. So there's a number of different ways that we also advertise beyond just the website.
I do appreciate your comment though,
Yes, I
of
do too.
highlighting the process
Yes.
to make a formal complaint.
It's a positive thing, not a negative thing.
And
Absolutely.
there's always action taken.
Yes.
Yes.
They're very responsive, so.
So on the same note, some of the highlights that we have done during the last year was South R Street. Like Brian mentioned, we have out of the, if you see our last slide, we have completed during 2021, we have completed 625 cubic yards of pavement repairs. Of that, roughly about 500 cubic yards was done on South R Street, which has repaired roughly about 1,700 feet of pavement. We have done, that's a lot of repair that we have dedicated to that, and they have done a lot of work. Kudos to the staff that we have got.
And that's the one you're referring to where you get done and then another section would
Yep.
have to be done and it took a
Yep.
lot longer and was a lot worse than you thought. because
Yeah.
it hadn't been done properly.
And we had a similar situation like 2 or 3 years ago on Hillcrest.
Mhm.
Our crews were out there and they'd replace a panel, and then when they got to that panel, the next panel started to fail. And I think Councilman Gazelle talked about how he went to the site and the crews just kind of picked up the thing and smashed them together, and it just dissipated into dust.
Yeah,
So,
hadn't been done properly.
yeah. So with any project like that, I mean, AP can attest, Dave can attest, what you see is what you see, but then when you open up the ground or break the surface, that's when you find out all the treasures that lie below.
So we have also worked towards converting the Howard Street and Buxton Street from one-way to two-way. It had taken multiple signs and staff hours to work towards that. We have also accomplished more than 12,400 feet of crack sealing, which is a preventive maintenance process to extend the life of the pavement. So what do we strive towards as a street division? We strive towards responding to making sure that we are responding to service calls within 4 hours. We make sure that we remove the snow within 24 hours after the snowfall has completed. We respond to pothole complaints within 24 hours. We ensure that we are communicating our work plan in our social media. Now, my second topic in my presentation is regarding the capital improvement plan. The purpose of the capital improvement plan is to make sure that we are maintaining the highest quality streets possible. As a part of this, the CIP helps us to make sure that we have a maintenance program to ensure longevity of our infrastructure. We should continue to invest in data-driven, that helps us to continue to invest in data-driven decisions. That also helps us to update the long-range plan. So as a part of this, we had shown this graph to you previously, where Indianola is compared to various metros around us. And where Indianola stands currently is about, we are doing 70, our average pavement condition index is 70, whereas the average MPO is about 68. So we are basically doing better than the average metropolitan areas around us. Some of the projects that we have completed recently or nearing completion is the signal timing improvement projects that we have completed. As a part of that project, we didn't just finish a block of pavement upgrade, but we have upgraded the synchronization of all the traffic signals. As a result, we have completed before and after studies for delays and the pollutant reductions, which is clearly showing that it has reduced the delays and reduced the number of pollutants that is in our infrastructure there. So we have proved that it's working and it's helping us immensely.
And the data collection and the reporting was a requirement of the grant that we got to help fund this. So there's a couple, I think it was about 200,000 or 180,000 was the grant that was awarded to the community to do that signalization timing and then that section of the roadway.
Can you tell us what road that signal timing has happened on?
So it's all the signals on Jefferson Way or US Highway 6569. And it's also coordinating with the A Avenue signals on 15th and I think it's 12th Street. The only signal that's not currently speaking is the Buxton because it's more than 40 or 50 years old. We are working towards one of the capital requests that you will be seeing is making sure that we are upgrading that traffic signal there. Hopefully that will be communicating at that time.
And just for those that are watching at home and for all of you, we talked at length about the Buxton traffic signal as part of the streetscape project.
Yep. So one of the projects that we are nearing completion is Iowa Avenue, which is the East Iowa Avenue paving project. We had received, as a part of this, the total project cost was roughly about $1 million. Now, that's nearing completion. That's going to help with the industrial complex with future improvements over their industrial complex over there. We have received roughly $500,000 in EDA grants for that project. The ongoing project, as you mentioned, Mayor, we have finished the blue portion half of the project. We are working towards going to the remaining, the second half of the project. This is roughly about a $250,000 project, and the pavement had completely failed in this intersection. So that's going to be a good upgrade. There's no ADA. The ADA does not meet the requirements there. So the upgrade will help with the ADA. This will also have sub drains, a lot better pavement quality than what we had previously. The completion of this project is expected by the plan completion is October 30th. We're hoping it's done before that. We'll see. Now, Hillcrest Avenue, that's a big project that we are planning for. The council has already approved the design for this project. Snyder and Associates is already started their design work. We have roughly planned for roughly $4.5 million of project. The construction is planned during the next 2 fiscal years, which is basically fiscal year 23 and 24. Even though the construction is planned for next year, we have the timeline is going to be dependent on various factors, such as this is a DOT project. We have to make sure the DOT approvals are required, and then also the easement, the construction easements are required before the construction starts. We are also planning for the K Street pavement construction. Currently, it's a gravel road, as you know. The council has also approved the design of this project, where the design has already started. This is between 2nd Avenue and 17th Avenue. The council has already approved for this. We have allocated roughly about $4.5 million for this project too. And same thing, fiscal year 23 and 24. I want to note that this is going to be a special assessment project where we have to make sure the requirements, the process is established before we start this project. And also easements, construction easements also needs to be acquired.
And just to add in, this process will follow the same process that we followed with East Iowa as part of that assessment process.
You know, if you remember this map that we had discussed in our previous study session, where we have seen the needs for pavement and utility improvements on Boston Avenue. The council directed that Boston Avenue is one of our priorities. So currently we have a contract with Snyder to do a 30% design for this project, which also includes the 30% design is also on this side of it. We have received roughly about $2.3 million in American Rescue Plan grant. So we know the extent of how much dollars we have. What we have to decide after the 30% design is complete, what can we do with that $2.3 million, whether we can go a few blocks here, whether it's Clinton, we'll have to see how much can we use the money towards.
And that section is really bad. I scooter on that just to show me how great the other streets are in town. It's bad.
So you say that'll be new utilities as well as
Storm sewer infrastructure, and if there's water is also old, even though it's not directly under the pavement, it is in the public right of way. Water infrastructure is also older.
okay.
So
And they're
it'll be
behind
replaced
you
as
looking
well.
at doing okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
When will we start that?
So the council approved this contract a few months ago. I think sometime in June, if I remember.
Yeah, survey's complete. 30% design is getting there. We're looking at different pavement alternatives to try and be efficient and not for that. That's a long block, and we're worried about how long the project will take. So it's a long time to walk 2 blocks of fix for, trying to figure out how we can speed up construction.
If piece, sorry, can you go back for the grant money that was received on each of the other projects? With the bond, did you have that in the, there you go.
So this one?
Yep, right.
So this one is allocated every year. We are allocated through CERTPA. It's called the Surface Transportation Block Grant. Iowa DOT allocates X amount of dollars, roughly about $250,000 to $300,000 that we allocated every year. We build up that money and eventually use towards projects that's eligible towards DOT, such as collectors, arterials are eligible for that project. Local streets are not.
Right.
So
Okay. And have we heard anything on the grant on South K?
K Street, no, we have not.
Not heard
I
yet?
think the grant is not received. We did not receive that grant for the K Street, but we have not received anything.
But we haven't heard on the member directed project, which we applied for a grant, and then we also applied for a member directed project, which it's the second round. That'll maybe happen, maybe not. We used to call those earmarks, now they're called member directed projects. The first round of member directed projects, we did not get. We went after Clinton Street culvert and the Clinton Street repairs. That was, we didn't make that cut. We went for the grant on K Street, didn't make that cut. There was a gazillion projects that were applied for on that one. But we also sort of, as a placeholder, kept K Street in for member directed project.
And
I don't know how that's gonna happen. You can predict what Congress is gonna do next.
Like I
Well,
know crystal ball, but I
yeah.
sure like one.
well, and I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, this is why it's so important to have the data that we do because of the studies that we now have.
Right.
So we have the pavement indexing, we have the stormwater stuff. So we now are able to go out and quickly compete and put together a lot of these grant applications, but also have the CIP and what the data drive those decisions, make the tax dollars or the dollars rate, our community dollars go a lot further because we now know.
So as a part of this, what the objectives for the capital improvement plan is to make sure that we are ensuring that the quality of pavement or infrastructure is maintained. We maintain our 70 value for the pavement condition index. Our current maintenance budget for the capital improvement budget for our annual budget for pavement is roughly about $350,000, where we do smaller capital projects such as Valley Place. And then we have increased our ERU, the stormwater utility fee, where we will be able to budget roughly about $600,000 annually. That will help us to get to our critical projects that was recognized as a part of our stormwater master plan. In addition to that, we also allocate additional funding by debt service living, such as K Street, for example. We have the need, as presented to you previously by Dave and myself, we have a need for roughly about an additional $1.5 million for pavement maintenance preservation. That is something, it's again, the same thing as that we try to invest towards pavement maintenance ahead of time, which is less expensive compared to pavement reconstruction, which is a lot more expensive. So that will help us towards maintaining our infrastructure at less cost compared to complete reconstruction. And we also target that they not just we need to have a target of roughly about every 3 years, we need to reconstruct more than 5-6 blocks of pavement if we can. The next slide shows you kind of something Snyder has helped us put together where our gap is in terms of the pavement preservation. We have roughly $1.5 million. We have met this gap with the ERU increase to do our critical projects. That we also have unmet need for our transportation system. We have to constantly rely on our data towards working and planning those projects that's needed for our transportation infrastructure. With this, I will have Dave do the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, AP. Okay, so I love getting in the weeds, as you know, but They only gave me 4 slides, so. If you remember the pavement indexing project that we worked on, we looked at all the streets in town, rated their condition, and part of the reason we put that into the computer is now that we can project based on the specific deterioration on each street, how fast it's going to deteriorate. And then we run scenarios and ask it to optimize and make some decisions for us. And while we don't listen strictly to the computer says to do this, we can pull out some trends and make some good decisions going forward. What it always wants to do is it wants to spend money up in that preservation area. So green, yellow, and orange is where it wants to spend the money. Well, the streets are worse than that, so you have to get to a point where you can do more of that work. And so it's looking for streets that are getting close to that critical PCI 55, which is where it goes from orange to red. It's kind of in that orange area. That wants to do those first to bring them up to a higher level, and it'll last for a long time because that costs about $3 for every $5 that you spend on the major rehabilitation. So it's trying to catch those streets before they get down to the bottom. It also has a high priority towards keeping the really good streets good. And then it also recognizes, based on the need, that we need to do some patching and just kind of like we talked about, the streets that are almost impassable, you have to spend that money. You still have to allocate some of your funds for those streets that are down there. Historically, the city's taken the approach of worst first. We're going to find the worst street out there, and then we're going to replace it. So we're kind of doing this shift of approach from, and part of it because of the progress that we've made over the years. Nice big grant, 2011, did a bunch of streets. So we've made some good progress. So now it's time we can contemplate a different approach where we can maybe be more effective in terms of number of blocks improved, and then keep them up above that critical PCI. So we know a lot about the street system. We understand how pavement deteriorates over time. And one of the things that, if you recall some of the data, the collector streets are low. We're higher than everybody on the street, but our collector streets are lower than most of the community's collector streets. That's where our deterioration is. So what we've taken a look at is, okay, how can we make an impact very efficiently with dollars? So we're going to target that orange area, that minor rehabilitation work. And so what does that mean? That's just minor rehabilitation means some different techniques that we haven't done in the city for quite some time. So again, this is more preservation minded. We're looking for streets that are again at above that 55 level, but they're also collectors. And then we're going to do a couple different things. The overlays that I'm speaking of here are hot mix asphalt instead of the cold mix asphalt that we fill potholes with. This would be a hot mix asphalt application. And what that does is it provides a really good, smoother ride than patching. It also recognizes that a lot of the problems that we have in our street deterioration are due to drainage infiltration in the cracks. We're staying on top of the crack ceiling, but as the streets get older and the cracks widen, there's a lot of faulted joints which trap water. So an overlay can seal that, keep the water out of the subgrade, and then also improve rideability. So we can do that in a couple different ways. Full depth patching, where we cut out on either side of the joint, put in new concrete, and then come back with an overlay. We can also do just a strengthening course. Oftentimes when, especially in low spots in streets where it's really wet, sometimes the panels start drifting apart from each other, and you get some wonky rideability, and we can come through there with a strengthening course, and then overlay the rest of it. So we're looking at somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5 inches of a normal overlay. In that strengthening course, we try to get more than 3 inches of structure. so that we can bridge some of those faults. Another technique that's used a lot is the crack and seat and overlay, where if there's a lot of joint, lot of corner breaks, where the road is similar to valley breaks, where the road is on its way to being gravel. You just kind of help speed along to gravel, and then you overlay that with again a structural overlay, so it's closer to 3 inches. City of Carlisle has been doing that. City of Norwalk has been doing that. I think Lakeview Drive in Norwalk and School Street in Carlisle are 2 examples of the crack and seat and an overlay. So these are techniques that, again, we haven't used in the city for quite some time that we would like to get some concurrence to move forward on. So just where are these streets? They're all over town. So this is the priority list, and I'm going to flip to a map here in just a second. But these are segments of streets. Many of them have been patched pretty significantly over the last 5 to 10 years. So there's a lot of patching on them. So they're structurally in good shape, but the rideability is poor. And I think anybody that's gone out to the brush facility down Iowa Avenue knows that there's some rideability issues, pretty significant there. But it's still strong enough that it's worthy of rehabilitation instead of reconstruction. It would be super expensive to tear all that out. And again, from a strength standpoint, with the traffic loads that we have, it's an excellent candidate for overlay. And all of these streets here on this proposed list are on the collector system. So we're going to be boosting up the level of service that the collectors are providing. It's still not cheap. This is about $5 million worth of work that we're looking at here. Would probably fill up the full 5-year program with these priority candidate streets. And there's another list of 10 more streets behind them that are ready to go. This will give us a good boost where we can again move more towards the preservation activities and less towards the total reconstruction. So here's the map of where those streets are. The green is just the street label. The yellow is where the proposed work is. And as you can see, there's some of them are significant segments of street. But again, these are the streets that are doing the work of the community that we all drive on. So it's a really good high priority improvement. So that is really what we're after tonight, is sort of some concurrence to shift more towards this preservation planning instead of a first planning. Going to ask you to think creatively about that budget. That's a big ask. We recognize that, and also want some concurrence that we're going to try some of these HMA techniques at various streets across the city. So that was.
I think it's really important to focus on continuous improvement, and and there's been a lot of those roads have been ignored for too long, and it's important to be working in front of it instead of always behind it.
For sure. Again, a lot of them have been patched, so we're really we're up in the ante on taking advantage of that work that we've done before and sort of finishing the job.
Once again, studies, data, making decisions off facts.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, helps you be prepared. Yeah.
Right.
Just to tie this in a bow. So we had Dave and AP had presented alternative methods previously when we went through the pavement indexing study. At that point, we asked you, are you willing to look at this as something, because what's the lifespan? Is it 20 years? You can extend the life of.
It'd be about 15 to 20.
So
we have to do something.
Yeah, right. And we talked, I think we used our street as an example. For a reconstruction of our street, it was going to be like 2 million. And then to do a grind and overlay, one of these methods was going to be about 600,000.
Yeah.
$700,000. So you can extend the life while we take care of some of these other things too, and maintain that infrastructure with, and because the reconstruction is significant. So you had asked us to bring back these candidate streets. So that's it. I mean, if there's any, we'll continue on as we go into the budget process about working on that if there's no objections to that.
So basically, we're gonna spend money. It's just now we're gonna be able to do more with the dollars that are spent.
Yeah. And remember, we talked about this during the retreat, and then when we got the pavement indexing study is historically the city's funded about the 600,000 for maintenance of streets. And we're kind of capped because the road use tax, which funds that department, doesn't cover, I mean, we need another $900,000 to get to that financial level that we need to invest in our roads. So where's that coming from? And what's the appetite? Because the reconstruction, you got to really issue more debt to do the reconstruction. So are there ways you can do some of this other stuff to extend the life and get a good chunk out of it and make those roads go a lot further at a fraction of the cost? And we talked about this before. These are all acceptable practices.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thanks, AP.
Thanks, AP.
Yes. Anything else? we need?
No, thank you. Long night. Thank you for your attention.
Perfect. Then we'll stand adjourned.
Oh, thank you.
Good job, you.